Good morning. I'm so waiting for
Wait.
I'm like, where's the red dot? It took a second there for that to pop up. Great start for this morning. Welcome to episode 116. Today is January 27th, 2021, and I'm your host, Brad Nye. Joining me as usual is my good friend and coworker, Evan Francine. Good morning, Evan.
Good morning, Brad. Yeah, it's one of those mornings, isn't it?
Yeah, we're recording on a Wednesday, and usually we record on Tuesdays, and I forgot to change the alarm, so kind of like flustered a little bit this morning, running behind, but we'll get through it. We'll figure this out.
Oh yeah, it is what it is, man. Yeah, I think both you and I probably got up about 15, 20 minutes ago.
That's about right. Yeah. Alarm went off and I went, oh no.
Yeah, same thing happened with me. My wife, when she got it, because normally I'm up a lot earlier, but I sleep on on Wednesdays because Tuesday is my first meeting of the day is at 4:30 a.m.
That's very early.
Yeah, so I was sleeping in, and my wife, reached over because she wasn't sure I was still there, and that's what woke me up. I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, I got a thing to do.
Yeah. Well, how was your week?
Good. Busy, but really good conversations. Had I did a roundtable with somebody this week. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. Security Studio, where it's time for a new content revision. I started, kind of documenting the process of how we're going to update document, kind of up the game there. You're going to be taking the SME piece from UMC. I'll do CIS, which is a topic for one of the things, we're going to talk about today. And then, we'll get Cola to do one or two, and then we'll try to pull in a couple people from the partner community.
Yeah, that'll be good. I'm looking forward to that. And, it's fun that it is a constantly evolving thing, right? And so, but yeah.
So that's going to be one of the things we're going to talk about today, right? We're going to talk about the CIS controls version 8 draft. We'll talk about some crazy ass question. Yeah, some crazy ass question I asked on LinkedIn.
Yeah, this will be good.
What else do I have? What else? And then let's just recap, if you want, where we're at with the CISSP mentor program. I think that's coming along nicely.
Yeah, that opened up, 2 weeks ago, roughly? We're already at 1,500 people.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's nuts.
1,500 people, and they, most of them will see our ugly mugs. Well, actually, you're not. They'll see my ugly mug and your less ugly mug.
No, you were right the first time. Oh, man.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that'll be good.
What about you? What you been up to? You did something with the CMMC, created a new tool for that?
Yeah, I did built out a spreadsheet for our internal use for doing gap assessments, and that turned out pretty well. I was pretty happy with it. Auto populates based on the domain level, the dashboard and the question. So you only see what is relevant for that, and changes the answers to status, because we talked about level 1 is no documentation required, so you can't have the same statuses for that as you would for the other levels where there is documentation.
Right. Well, that's cool. That'll be. And then, are you involved at all in the PCI work that's going on with FRSecure Studio?
I haven't been, but I was involved with kind of reviewing the spreadsheet that Charles put together. He did a good job with that. So I'm assuming that was what that is based off of.
Okay. Very cool.
And then the other thing is doing an updated NIST maturity assessment based on the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association put out new guidance and requirements for all of their member associations. So having to rebuild based on that, but it's actually, I like the new requirements or the new guidance. I think it's going to be a little bit better and more like more consistent, because before it was pretty vague.
Yeah.
But we'll be able to use that for, not just the blues. I think, we have been asked for specific NIST maturity assessments in the past, even if we don't, like we've talked about it. It's like, it's so objective a lot of times versus
Subjective.
Or I'm sorry, yes, it's not objective, it's subjective.
Sounds like objective. What the hell at ISTCS are you looking at?
Yeah. So that's good. It's fun to build those things out.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, check this out, man. So this morning I woke up and I actually just checked I got a text and look at this. Let me share my screen so you can see what the hell I'm talking about. So see this?
Mm-hmm.
There's like really important people on here.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the
What?
right?
Nice.
Yeah. It's weird.
How did RC beat you?
How did what?
How did he get one ahead of you? Ryan?
Chris Roberts or
No,
Ryan?
Ryan.
Well, look at him. He's much better looking than I am.
Yeah, true.
But to be mentioned, so yeah, the
Very
100
cool.
most influential people in cybersecurity. I don't know what the hell I'm doing on that list. But there's some really important, really smart people on this list.
Yeah.
Lenny Zeltzer, man. They're people that I really look up to. Yeah. John McAfee. So I don't know. I've never even heard of this list before, but Dmitry Alperovich, he's a hell of a smart dude too over at CrowdStrike. So yeah, somehow I made it onto a list. Well, this is the whole shit show right here. Chris, Ryan, and me.
It's interesting. I wonder if it's related to maybe social media.
I don't know. I don't even have that many followers though. So I don't know. And Chris and Ryan has less than me.
Yeah,
I think it's just I don't know either.
That's very cool.
Yeah, Chris sent that to me this morning. He's like, "Oh, look, we made a list of 100 most influential people in cybersecurity." So, yeah, it's weird. But you know what I like about it is they didn't mention me as much as the very first sentence got the S2 score.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's really important to the mission. It's not my name. It's let's get people just focusing on a number, and then let's make the number better, right? Because there's no perfect number. Get a number, and then we can tweak it. Like that's what we're doing with the new revision of the content, right? We're going to make that number mean more.
Yeah.
Always.
No, yeah, I agree, and we've been saying it for years. We're at the point where the head in the sand, I didn't know approach just doesn't. It's not acceptable anymore. Right? There was a time when that was legitimate. People didn't know about this stuff or weren't aware of it, but we're so far past that at this point. So it starts somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That baseline and yeah.
Well, and I don't understand how people can operate and say that they're managing information security and don't have any measurement for it, or the measurement you're using is so narrowly focused and myopic, it can't represent the entire program. So you might use vulnerability scanning, or you might use, I don't know, BitSight or security scorecard or something like that to quantify the entire security program, but you're missing the entire human element. So, I mean, you have to do that kind of boring stuff.
Well,
I'm really excited for this next revision too, because you can bring that CMMC flavor, which is much more prescriptive, right?
Yeah.
Than really any other standard kind of out there right now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I trust, but that doesn't count.
No. Well, the nice thing with the CMMC is it is based on 800.171. So it's a known standard, but I think they did a good job in writing the statements and providing clarification and examples and making it in a way that it's not going to be just checkbox compliance. Like people are going to actually have to be doing security and managing and maintaining it to get and keep their certification, which, you lose your certification, you can't bid on DoD contracts. That's kind of a big deal for a lot of these smaller companies or just anybody who's working on them.
Right. Yeah, totally, man. Yeah. Yeah, there's things I like. Well, there's things I like about everything, and there's things I don't like about probably everything. But I like the combination. So that was, when I wrote, it's funny how you kind of get these brain spurts. I don't know if you ever get this. Like I'll go a week where I can't focus. I just can't, everything seems chaotic. I've got too many damn emails, too many meetings, too many everything. And then there's weeks where it's like click and things just click. Like when you were working on your CMMC, workbook,
Mm-hmm.
or when, like yesterday, actually the last couple of weeks have been like that for me. To people who can't see inside your brain, they think like your ADD is like on steroids today because I'm all over the place. But like yesterday, pumping out that, the new methodology for updating our content, which is just
Yeah.
a framework. There's a lot of stuff we're gonna have to put back in, expand upon. But it dawned on me that the best way for us to approach going into the revision of the content for the S2 score and S2 org is, let's start with the most prescriptive standards that are out there as a reference, right?
Mhm.
So CMMC is, I think really important to that. CIS, very good script guidance there. And it's not like you have to follow all the guidance, but where there are gaps maybe in the guidance that you should be following, then what's vulnerability in that? And are there any applicable threats? If all that's true, then you have to put a risk score to it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things that I really like about the S2 assessment is it's not, yeah, it's based off of, really the CSF and ISO 27000, but it's not like by the book, right? It brings in parts of other standards. So it's more uh, holistic, more encompassing than any one particular standard.
Right.
So I know with like physical, we bring in parts of, was it Homeland Security and some of the
Yep.
government recommendations around physical security. And, it brings in everything. It's not just, well, we're doing, like we were talking about, it's not just a NIST maturity assessment. It's looking at more. And it's not focused on like CMMC or high trust or a SOC 2 or a lot of these where you narrow the scope down, PCI, where you narrow the scope as much as you can. It's organizational wide because let's be honest, if you can't do that on an organizational wide basis, how are you doing that on a, like specific scope? Like,
Right. Well, we had a great conversation yesterday. I think I had a meeting with, I think there were 4 universities in the meeting, and we were just talking about, challenges that university CISOs face, and it's not all that unlike, CISOs, in other places. But he had asked about scope. What's the scope of, like an S2 org assessment? And we built it. And I think you'll be excited about when you see the next revision, which is due out or the next version, which is due out in February, because it allows us to nest entities.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was talking with Caitlin about that
Yeah.
yesterday.
And that was designed, after a meeting with Jim O'Connor at Cargill.
Mm-hmm.
He was struggling with, how do you deal with distributed accountability? Like, how do I hold, Johnny accountable for physical security at a plant in Mexico? And
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, to hold Jane accountable for the network in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to nest those entities, I think, is the hardest challenge is going to be in really complex organizations to do the initial setup. Like, who's actually responsible for this and that and everything else? But you have to do that anyway.
Right.
I mean, how the hell are you gonna secure anything if you don't have everybody responsible for that thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
And what's nice is it's already sort of there from but yeah, it's going to be taking it to that next level.
Yeah. So this content revision is going to be really important, because also we're going to expand upon some of the things that have changed. I mean, the world changes, right? You can't stick with a static set of controls, a static set of guidance.
Right.
It's not the same anymore.
No. And it's been about coming up on 2 years. I think that's a fairly good cadence, right? Because you don't want it to be changing so often that people,
Right.
you can't trust it, because it's like, well, it changes every 3 months. What is it valid that 3 months ago this was the case and now it's different? But yeah, at the same time, you can't let it go 10 years or even 5 years, because things are changing so fast.
Right.
So,
And I think it's okay to change, back end metrics, because those are very fluid, like threats.
yes.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I know you're saying the same thing I am. Yeah, but but it's more listeners, like the content, this thing you should have in place. Those are fairly. It's like, if one is like water, the other one's like mud, right? In terms of its viscosity, like how much it changes. It changes, just not nearly as quickly.
Right.
Can't.
Well, there's a reason that all the standards are crosswalk to each other fairly easily, right? Like, the basics are there; they're not going to change, but the risks and the threats towards those can change.
Yeah, they're very fluid. Well, this is our first. I mean, this is another effort to push the content also out of any single sort of authority, in a single sort of perspective.
Right.
Now that we're formally sort of find what the core elements of this assessment must be, and then getting different perspectives. That's, I get really jazzed, because for a long time it's been, one or two people, maybe three, have had
Yeah.
input into the content,
Yeah. I
which
know.
is why I like the way CIS does it. They
Oh yeah.
they're good. They set a good precedent for some of.
Yeah. No. It's funny. This will be. I know with the current R2 version, there's a lot of input that you got, or that was put in from the physical security, and changing some of that, and the technical controls, and updating some of that stuff, and updating the algorithm around how we're doing vulnerability scanning and scoring some of that. So it's good. The more, like you said, CIS, and that might be a good transition, but the way they're doing it, with having an open community session or working group to make comments or recommendations, the more input you can get, the better it'll be.
Totally.
You don't have to accept all of it, but take it into consideration.
Right. And the cool thing too about working with CIS is, we've had multiple meetings with them, and they are really good people. Lately, we've been working with Tony Sager and Curtis Dukes, uh, who are both, in CIS executive leadership, just talking about where their heart's at. Where is CIS? CIS is a nonprofit. Where are they going? Because you want to associate with like-minded
Mhm.
people, in your industry. They're in this to truly make the industry better, and they've made tremendous progress. So why not team up a little bit? It's not like we formally do stuff together, but we have maybe a meeting every month or so, and just talk through things. I think we have a tremendous amount of respect for each other. Tony's Tony's awesome. If you ever get a chance to talk to Tony Sager, he's there. I guess they call him SVP and evangelist. If you ever get a chance to talk to him or listen to him, yeah, we got hive mind, man. It's good stuff. It's with you too, right? It's like we think the same way on a lot of security things.
Very cool. Yeah, no, I haven't
It's good
had
people.
the opportunity to talk with them
You will eventually.
at some point.
Yeah. Well, if you want to. You don't. Sometimes I don't want to talk to people, to be honest.
Definitely have
Right?
those days too.
Yeah. It's like I don't want to talk to you, not because I don't like you. I just don't like you.
So
Weird.
yeah, let's talk about the CIS V8 and how they're doing this, and maybe I don't know some your high level thoughts about it. Um, I do like it's open for the V8 draft is open for public comment. You can go to the CIS workbench and create an account if you don't have one, and it's free, and you can see it and make comments about it. Um, it's interesting. It's always been the CIS 20 or the SANS 20 before, and now it's
Right.
looks like 18, which is not quite as catchy.
Yeah. So I think they're just going to refer to it now. They've made the transition now to just CIS controls.
Hmm.
There's no top 20, no top nothing. It's just, CIS controls. And like that, man, anybody can go and participate and, get a sneak peek. You just go to CISSecurity.org, and then down on the bottom, you'll see programs and memberships. There's CIS communities there. Those are places. In the middle, you'll see the CIS workbench. In the
Hmm.
bottom, and that's where you can go ahead and sign up and get your sneak peek in version 8.
Well, it's cool because you can see the discussions, and people are you know you can respond and go through those, and it's really kind of it's a I like it. I think it's a good model for the S2 as we move forward with that.
Yeah, it needs to be. It certainly needs to be one of those ins, right? Just like CMMC. Do you remember which other ones I chose for the core, which we can always change to? The CI V8, CMMC. I chose Cloud
F-
Security Alliance, Cloud Controls Matrix,
the FFIEC.
CCM. Yep, and then the Health Industry Cybersecurity Practices. And I chose that one because that sort of takes HIPAA and it's Department of Health and Human Services folks who like, here's HIPAA, here's how you can do it, kind of thing. I like their guidance.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and I think with that you still obviously would keep the foundation being still with that CSF and ISO 27000, but really being able to integrate some of these more industry specific um, you know controls.
right, yeah, totally. The and it's funny you mentioned that because I remember the very first version. The history behind S2, it was actually an assessment that I was using myself as a CISO for the big pharmaceutical company, I had so much struggle trying to communicate to my executive management where we were at with information security. It was always difficult to get budget. Just so many misunderstandings about what security was. So this fundamental kind of assessment started with BS 7799 as its base. And then that became ISO
Right.
27001. And then they revised that a couple of times. And it's cool to see kind of how we've arrived to where we're at and how it's matured to now it's really, it's not a single standard. You're saying it's a core set of standards. And then as you develop that core set, then you branch out and do some of the ancillary standardy things, right? Like SOC 2, for instance, guidance in the SOC 2 will map to the assessment, but you can't make that a core because it's too,
Well,
nebulous, I guess.
yeah, I mean, they have some high level like, hey, you should be doing this, but then, you as the person being assessed get to write how you're doing it, and then you get
Right.
assessed against, hey, we're doing it this way, and you have accounting firms doing security auditing, right? Like we know we work with a bunch of them, and they lean on us to make sure that is this good security, because they don't know some of that stuff.
Right. I think you do have to boil it down to binary things, right? Because there's really no room for interpretation. So it almost seems sort of oddity, not oddity. That's me. I'm the oddity, but that's oddity. The Yeah, I mean, true, false. Either you're doing this or you're not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
The in between, because you get that a lot. People will make excuses why it's not that, but it's not that. It's in between. But if you look at the true, I mean, if you look at the question, it's all or nothing on this
Yeah.
particular point. And then, but then people, well, but if you boil it down to enough minutia, then you can do true falses in binary things and then build out the entire bigger thing, right? Where
Yeah.
there is a bunch of gray.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
really, all gray is just a bunch of white and black dots.
Right. Well, I've absolutely had, done assessments and delivered it, and there's a control or a subcategory that in the S2 where they're like, it's like, no, you scored a 400 here, and they're like, what? But we're doing it at 90% of the place. Yeah, you're doing it at, what about the other 10? You
Right.
can't say you're doing it and not have it everywhere. And
Right.
for the most part, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, fair, good point.
Right.
And they get it once you explain it, but so many people, I think, don't consider that. They're like, well, yeah, but we've got it at all but one site. Okay, so what happens
Right.
when that site is compromised and now they're inside the network?
Right.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right. Or when you talk about configuration control or something like that, and
Yeah,
they've got some of it, but then you've got, 5 admins who can make changes outside of that do regularly. It's like, well, okay, it's great to have change control, but maybe you want to bring all that stuff sort of,
yep,
you know, yeah. So yeah, CIS. I think these controls, and I caught wind of this. I think most people did, that version 7.1 was going to be replaced with version 8. They've been working on it for a while, uh, and it's truly no coincidence that us with the S2 were waiting. I mean, we just weren't in a big rush to get our content updated, knowing that CIS was going to be coming out really soon.
right.
We don't reference things that have already changed. And also the CMMC, right? CMMC, it was nice to have you go through that official training, because I don't know anybody else who knows CMMC better than you do. So it's like, perfect. Let's build
Yeah,
this now.
yeah, yeah. And it was interesting. The training was, oh my God, it was so dry, but it was really, really good from a understanding what they're looking for, what they're expecting. So it changed
Cool.
my understanding of it, which is always good.
Right. It is always good. So the CIS, if you go and read it, if you don't want to, if you're not into that stuff, that's fine. But uh, it really gives they at the beginning of this public call in the introduction, they give you their logic and reasoning for how they arrived where they're at. Now, I don't like to skip those things because it gives me context.
Mm-hmm.
So you may just want to get right to the meat of, the specific controls, but I'd advise against that. I would advise you to read the logic on how they arrived at these controls, because it helps you it makes it make sense. They're
Mm-hmm.
not just controls for the sense of controls. There's real logic behind it. Um, so I like all that stuff. They did a great job of sort of telling us why they, got to where they are.
Yeah,
They have their implementation groups like they always have. That remains, IG1 through IG3. Uh,
I did like
but like
the
you said, they went from 20 to 18.
yeah. Well, and that it's in there in the beginning, that community defense model too. I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of that until I logged in and saw that. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
it's cool, and it also aligns with some of the other things that we don't align with. Right? It's like these. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle. Where do the pieces go to make your own picture? Because you can't just go with any one standard and say that's the standard that I'm going to use. I'm going to adopt it verbatim. That's going to be our security program. So if that's your approach, it's wrong. You're you're totally missing the point on what information security is. You're costing your company, organization, a lot more money and being probably a lot less effective.
mhm.
So that's why I caution against any one particular standard, because it's like a square peg sometimes in
Yeah.
some places. So
Well, I mean, you've got it on the screen there, the controls ecosystem. It's not about the list. Like, there's so many things in reading through this. Uh, and I just got access yesterday morning, which is why we didn't record yesterday. Is I didn't have it didn't come through in time. But looking through it, there's so many things in there where I can see the alignment that you were talking about. Right? It's not a checkbox. It's a catalyst, right? Like they said right there. This should be
right.
the starting point. And even I was I clicked on number one, the inventory and control of hardware, and the first thing it says is enterprise can't control what they don't know, right? How can you
How many?
yeah,
Yeah,
can't defend what they don't know they have. How many times have we said exactly that?
that's what I'm telling you, man. When I had my first discussion with Tony Sager, I was like, okay, I can use. So it's not for selfish reasons, but I always look at, like, can I use this to further our mission or not? Right? There are a lot of relationships that, I mean, we can all create all sorts of relationships, but some of them are distracting. Some of them are unhealthy, but when I spoke with Tony, I'm like, yes. Same with like Chris Roberts.
Mhm.
I don't hang out with Chris Roberts because he's Chris Roberts. It's because the dude speaks the same language as I do. I can use him to get the word out to more people,
Right.
and I don't need credit. I could give two about credit, but yeah, Tony was really good when he said those things. I was like, yeah, I want to just do stuff with you.
Yeah, I
You
can
know,
I can see that with kind of reading through this stuff. But and there's some good discussion points in here as well. So I think this will be something that it will be good to follow and
hmm
participate in.
yeah, I agree. We're sort of taking, it dawned on me yesterday that Security Studio is like the Swiss of security. We're like the neutral, like
Hmm.
pull this in, pull that in. because yesterday we also had a really good discussion with Security Scorecard, and I think we'll be integrating some things with BitSite. But yeah, with this, so I guess we should get to. I keep preaching about stuff we're doing, but
It's
I don't know,
we can do what we want.
right? So the controls are number one, inventory and control of hardware. So we've seen that one before. Inventory and control of software assets. Really, what happened there is that they just sort of updated things, refreshed some things, added. But you'll see that those are really common to what they were. 3 is secure configuration of assets, network interfaces, and then I can't read it because I can never scroll with this web thing. Maybe if I made it smaller. No, that didn't help. But you can see it on the screen. Secure configuration of assets, network interfaces, account management, access control management, data protection, continuous vulnerability management, audit log management, email and web browser protections, malware defenses, data recovery, network infrastructure management, network monitoring and defense, security awareness and skills training, service provider management, application software security, incident response management, and penetration testing.
And what's interesting
There's
is
a whole bunch of
yeah. Well, those aren't the standard, I guess, things you would see, but it's like practical.
Yeah.
You don't see them written out like this, but I like it.
Yeah, I do too. It's prescriptive where, because the more there's being prescriptive, it's a double-edged sword, right? On the one side, it takes away a lot of the gray area. It makes it much more binary. Do this, and because it's our guidance thing or whatever. That's the part where it becomes a double-edged sword, because you don't do this just for the sense of doing this. So you might be doing a bunch of kind of disruptive stuff that you're not doing for the right reasons, or maybe you don't even need it.
Yeah.
But for a core of something, when you've got all these binary things on the outside, we can start to interpret: do you actually need this or not? Those kinds of more ancillary stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, but anybody who's in security and going to be referencing CIS should definitely go check this out. Start to get yourself prepared for it and or participate in its development.
Yeah, I totally plan on being in just being involved in this.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like that, because there's some good discussions too about, if you look at the community activity, why is this so far down on the list? Subcontroller safeguard, just good clarification type things.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Phyllis Lee, the one who leads this, she's freaking awesome too. She was out at RSA preaching, some of the stuff that CIS is doing.
Yeah, it's very cool.
You have till February. Sorry, man.
Oh no, yeah, I was gonna say the only thing I wish it was open a little bit longer, just because I've already got a bunch of stuff on my calendar, so it's gonna be a little difficult, but we'll make it happen.
Well, yeah, and even if you didn't, like, I don't have much time either to put too much input into it, but I can follow along at least and be like, all right. Because what ends up being in the final standard or the final controls anyway, I would never recommend that everybody adopt these controls anyway. You know what I mean? So even if there's stuff in there I don't agree with, it's like, all right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, and that's what to me is so much fun about what we do is everybody has to, everybody should be doing and customizing it for their organization, right? Like you can't, it's not one size fits all, and just, it is what it is. You gotta, make it work and make it fit within your situation.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I'm showing that community defense model too. I think you just referenced that, didn't you? Yeah, there's that piece.
Yeah, sorry, I muted my dog is barking.
No, mine too. My dog was, yeah.
Your dog is like a little yippy. Mine is.
Well, the other one, Violet. We thought Violet was a Chorky,
Mhm.
and no way in hell that dog's a Chorky. The dog is. I mean, she's like 20 pounds now. So
Wow. Yeah. No, we've the two dogs.
we thought we had.
One of them doesn't hardly ever barks, and the other one is a shepherd mix. And shepherds like to talk, and he will absolutely come up to you and kind of vocalize with you, not necessarily bark, but it's kind of like, oh, come on, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Will they talk to you like,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, he totally does. He comes up and does that all the time. It's cute. It's funny, but yeah. Anyway.
What if there's an ETA for when? So the version 8 draft it's open for public content or comment or whatever until February 8th. So we've only got a couple of weeks, and then I don't know what the final timeline is. It might be in here somewhere of when they expect it to be completed.
I looked for that. I didn't see it, and it's not saying that it's not in there. I just didn't see it.
Yeah, but I think it's a good set of controls to align with, not necessarily to. Again, I caution anybody against implementing controls for the sense of controls. If they don't apply, if there's no threat associated with that control, then why the hell would you implement it? So it is going to take a lot of interpretation and guidance potentially to implement these things in the best way possible. But even there, I think CIS has some good tips and guidance. They certainly understand, you don't implement controls for the sense of controls.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%.
So we'll keep an eye on it. I think as things progress, we'll share more here on the show, and we'll share more at both of the companies we represent, FRSecure and Security Studio.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I was gonna say, yeah, the other thing we wanted to talk about was your LinkedIn question here.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, 109 comments. That's not too bad.
No. No. Well, so I thought about, you do this too, man. I know that many of us are sort of thinkers, sometimes really deep thinkers, and sometimes, I don't know, maybe some would call it insanity. But I was thinking at the core of, actually where this all started was Kevin had asked me, what's our unfair advantage? And I'm like, what the hell question is that? Unfair advantage.
I was gonna say that's deep.
Right. But the answer sort of came fairly quickly, and I think, and I might even be able to find what I wrote, or what I wrote back to him. But essentially, it was, we focus on the core of, or the root of, all information security problems, where I think others may not be doing. I mean, we've been so focused on that for so long. What did I answer? I can't even find the answer that. But basically,
it's the fundamentals, right? That. Keep it simple.
Yeah, as we said, we're working on the solution to the root of all information security problems. And instead of like challenging me on that, he just gave me a thumbs up. I was like, well, shit. What is the root? So that led to the question, on LinkedIn, what is at the root of all information security industry problems?
Mm-hmm. I think that first comment there is probably pretty. I would agree with a lot of what he says. I would have said it's a lack of communication or understanding of security professionals of how businesses work, and not being able to communicate.
Well, and that's what I found out. So in the 109 comments of people that have participated and just kind of given their own 2 cents, I think just about every comment I read was valid, and I think I agree with, but it didn't answer the question. What is that at the root? So, because as you read through them, like, Corbin Hardy gives, we've met the enemy and he is us.
Mhm.
Ken Bechtel, who we had on the show one time,
Yep.
kind of a pioneer in a lot of different ways. Not really well known necessarily. Well, I mean, sort of well known, but he says programmers, developers, they're the bane of all our existence. And I was like, all right. And see kind of where his bias is coming from, because he's a malware
Right.
researcher, right? So he's like, every piece of malware is the result of a developer. And I'm like, well, there's that. And then anything beyond hello world has vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Uh, Jack
Yeah.
Hewitt, lack of communication. Ron Gregg, convenience being more important than everything else.
Oh yeah. I mean, how many times do you see, why is this running as admin? Well, because the vendor couldn't figure it out and said we had to. Or,
Right, right,
because it works.
right. And yeah, well, and that's what drives so many technology investments, right? Alexa, and it's convenient, right? All I got to do is say, Alexa, turn on whatever. I don't know. I mean, at some point, it's probably better just to get off your butt and do it. I mean, it's more secure, probably.
Mhm.
I like this one. Jr. says trick question, Sensei. I don't think I've ever been called Sensei before, but she makes this good point about race conditions, and then race conditions have a single source, though, or yeah, I mean the single or same source. So even that, what's the root? What's that source?
Mhm.
Uh, Chris gave his 2 cents.
Chris is, yeah.
Yeah, people was a very common answer. So what's at the root of all industry problems, all information security industry problems?
But I'm going to go back on that one and say you can't blame the end user if, as a security professional, you're not communicating and doing a good job of educating them, right? So it's not
Very true.
just, when you say people, it's not just those end users. It's, you got to look in the mirror.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. We all contribute to where we're at. And then, as I was thinking, through and reading people's, I was like, I said what's at the root of all information security industry problems, assuming then that there are problems. I mean, so nobody really challenged on that front, because that would have been, I think, a good philosophical discussion. Holly, hesitant to disclose. And I was like, you know,
Yeah.
I hope it's not a fear or intimidation. And then she, sort of opened up.
Fair, fair. Yeah. That's a good point. That is valid too.
Right. Yeah. Her hesitance to disclose for, yeah,
Yeah.
time,
Hmm.
electricity, Kate Silvertooth, electricity. Like, yeah, there's some validity to that. Uh, Ambiguous questions. And so I think a lot of times there's nothing with an ambiguous question. An ambiguous question means that there's multiple interpretations to the question.
Yeah.
I like ambiguous questions in some cases because it gets you thinking.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, exactly right. There's a use case for them, right?
Mhm.
In this case, you're looking for a lot of input and perspective. So yeah, you want to write it ambiguous and see what people say.
Yep.
I wouldn't use that as an assessment question, right? So,
No,
but like you said it, and great words have meaning, and you're doing this in a specific way.
right. Yep. We don't know. Yeah. So this is kind of a people angle too, Dan Brown. We don't need security because, and insert excuse.
Yep.
Uh,
A lot of
Ron
times that
Werner,
one is
assumption.
we don't need it because it won't happen to us, or we don't have anything they want, and then exactly we got hacked.
Yep. Then you find yourself sitting across the table from one of our incident handlers or incident
Yeah, on
responders.
on a Friday afternoon because you've waited all week trying to fix it yourself.
Right. Ron Werner, love his, always love his input, assumptions. Joe Marino, uh, yeah, getting philosophical, which I agree. Majority of, and then his opinion is the majority of the post can be summed up in one word: ignorance.
Well, I think that goes back to what I was saying is a failure to educate and communicate from us, right? You
Yeah,
can't blame the end users for being ignorant if we're not providing them usable guidance.
exactly. Matt Goodacre, active management of your information assets. And then every one of these comments, because I tried to comment back on every one of them just to validate that what they're saying is true and I think it's valid. What I don't want, in these ambiguous questions is people feeling judged or people
Mhm.
feeling inferior or stupid for their answer.
Oh
Every
no.
input is really important to consider. It may not be the input I'm looking for or that we end up with, but it's got to be a consideration, right?
Hmm. Well, it's like we were just talking about. The more perspective you can get, the better it's going to be, right? So, and I think that that's probably part of the problem we have is people don't want to get that input or don't ask the questions and then judge if they do ask them. And
Right.
how are you going to understand what people or your end users or are thinking or concerned about if you judge them for asking a question and
Right.
belittle them? And that absolutely happens. I think we've both seen it where somebody will just talk down to a user, and well, guess what? That user's never going to ask you a question again because you
Yeah.
just embarrassed them. You can't do that.
Right. We say people, we need to have people, and that's our problem. And then you exacerbate your problem by being a jerk.
Right. You become the combatant. You need to be working with
Right.
them. They're also, yeah, they might be a big part of the problem, but they're also going to be one of the biggest assets in fixing the problem if you can communicate and educate them and get them,
Right.
understanding.
And see, I don't understand. There's always this, and it's not just in our industry, it's a human condition where I, you know, in our industry, we speak our language, right? So we have a tendency to look at people who don't speak our language as being inferior in some way, less intelligent, less educated, because you've seen those comments, all
Mm-hmm.
throughout. And so there's this kind of undercurrent of that thought when really, when you think about it, it's kind of the other way around. How intelligent are we if we're trying to communicate with people and we're not speaking their language or we're not translating our language into theirs? Because truly, it's a language problem. It's like
Mm-hmm.
saying, do people who speak French, are they more intelligent than people who speak German?
Right. Yeah.
The hell,
Yeah,
there's no correlation on that.
exactly. Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that.
Because I try to keep that in check. I mean, I think I got over that actually. I don't think I do that as much. And if I do, I certainly want people to call it out on me because I don't want to be like that. But I think some of that kind of erodes away with age too for me because I think there were times when I was like that. I was very much stupid users,
Well, I
they would
mean,
just stop clicking on links. But I don't do that like I
well,
used to.
I think that there is. I mean, I'll be honest. I've done that with some of the incidents, but never to the user, right? Like you have to vent at some point, right? And it's frustrating at times because you didn't communicate well, and you're like, oh my gosh, why are they continuing to do this? Or I can't believe they did this. But then I would never actually say that to a user. But you also have to take a minute and say, why am I so frustrated? Like,
Oh, that's true.
you
Yeah,
I can't believe they did that. Oh, hang on. Maybe I should have done a better job of telling
Well,
them not to
sometimes,
do that.
well, sometimes too, when we're working with people, not people in our tribe, you see some behavior that is so counter to what I do or what we do, that sometimes I need to reach out to somebody else who's in my tribe and say, dude, am I crazy?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a big part of it.
I'm so far off here. Please tell me I'm not crazy. Or if I am crazy, please tell me I am so I can change. Because you see some things, you're just like, how in the hell did you think that was a good idea?
Yeah.
Well, because maybe they
Well,
didn't, I don't know.
the one that I'm not okay with is like MSPs that are doing the fundamentals wrong, right? An MSP that has an any rule for a customer, or has some of these fundamentals wrong, that I don't have patience for. But
No.
the end users, that's a
Well,
different story.
well, truly, you're a hypocrite and an imposter if you're consulting people on information security and you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Right.
That'd be like, there's a reason why, you know, not everybody performs surgery. There's a reason why not everybody works on your car, right? I wouldn't. Yeah, yeah. I don't have
Yeah.
any patience for that either. If you're taking money services that you suck at performing, you shouldn't be doing that. Or
Well,
up your game. Learn the basics. Learn the things.
yeah. Or even IT professionals. Like, I can't tell you how many of these incidents we've had where it's like, why is 3389 open to the internet, or why is LDAP available? Like, yeah. But
No,
the
I
end
hear you, man.
users themselves, I have a lot of give them a lot of leeway.
Well, yeah, I have a ton of empathy for them too
Yeah.
because my job is information security. You know, whatever's job, somebody else's job might be in accounting,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you're kicking ass on accounting. You're an expert on accounting. I'm an expert on information security. If you ask me to balance the books, or if you ask me to, I don't know, whatever, I'm an idiot with
Right.
that. So I wonder how much of us, we just don't empathize enough. We don't see their perspective enough. We don't ask enough questions and actually listen, because we do need their participation. You won't ever be able to remove the human element. The only way you'll ever be able to remove the human element is to end humanity.
Right. Well, it's like you say,
And
how
we
do you reduce
and
all
you don't
risk?
want to go there.
Right. Well, yeah. If people ask, how do I eliminate risk? Close. Well, that's not conducive with the business succeeding.
Right. Yeah. Because we keep pursuing this, and I understand we're trying to, what we do in our industry a lot is we try to limit risk and manage the risk around humans, which is good, right? There are good products that do that, and but you can't do that at the expense of ignoring the human.
Mhm.
And the thing is about the humans too, man, is they're the ones who suffer. And sometimes the suffering, and it will get worse, right? In time, the suffering will result in death. That's where the
Yeah.
path goes, right?
Yeah.
We don't want
So,
that, man. We don't want people to die. I don't. I don't know.
no.
Some people in our industry probably, but not here.
Yeah.
All right. So
Well,
anyway, that's the question, and anybody can go read it. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, I'm easy to find. The question is again, and put your own thoughts in. I love all these thoughts. There is no bad thought other than a disrespectful one. Right? If you answer some kind of jerk answer,
you're
that's
going to
not
get
helping anybody.
it. You're going to get an appropriate response.
Yeah. So the question is, what is at the root of all information security industry problems? And yeah, it's very interesting. I'll do a write up on that.
Yeah.
And I think, also in our book, Brad, we're writing on the book. We got a meeting on Friday.
Yep.
Um, really excited that ball continues to push forward, but these perspectives will be really important somehow to incorporate and weave into the book because it makes you more effective.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's good, and it's good to see kind of, I would say, validation of our perspective, because a lot of what we've said, people are saying in that. So
Yeah,
that's always
totally.
encouraging.
Yeah.
So
And it's cool too, because I do have, I went into this question with an answer already. I already had my own formulated answer. And it's really interesting to see that nobody else has that same answer.
hmm,
So I'm like, damn it, I'm a fringe dude right now. But people, I think, is the if you were to look at the number one theme throughout all the comments, it would be people.
yeah,
And I can't disagree with that, but that's I don't know. I'm gonna have to formulate if I want to stick to my answer. If I want to dig in on what my answer is, I'll have to push it and equate it somewhere to that. It'll
yeah.
be cool.
Well, and I think, like I said earlier, when you say people, it's not, you have to look in the mirror too as a security professional. It's not everyone else and not you. It's you're part of the problem too.
Well, right. And if I think the best security people start there.
Mm,
The best CISOs I've ever met aren't great technologists. They're great leaders. And I think great leaders look in the mirror first before pushing blame onto somebody else. They take responsibility.
yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. Well, that's, isn't that the, like, part of being like, that just is, makes sense to me. Like that's anyway.
You'd think so, man, but you see a lot of leaders that don't lead like that.
You're not going to build a lot of faith and following by constantly throwing people under the bus, right? Ultimately, the buck stops with you. So
Totally true.
anyway, all right. So news,
It's just news, man.
and
No,
so shout out to this is my shout out of the week, Victoria, the for doing this. I'm totally uh, mooching off of her work and the other consultants that provided feedback. Excuse me. A couple of big ones. ZDNet, Cisco says it won't patch 74 security bugs in older RV routers that have reached end of life. So uh, if you are using an end of life Cisco device, stop. Like, use supported hardware. That's a, but I can see that being a big problem. Uh,
yeah, that stuff always irritates me. I don't know how to approach that. The it's something that you made, you put out into the world. People paid you for it, and I understand that you can't support it forever. That's a tough one because
I think, let's see, pull it up. The big thing for me is how old are these, right? Like, if it's something that's 10 years old, let's see, all the RV, so it's small business routers, they reached end of life in 17 and 18, and maintenance window part of paid support contracts in December of 2020. So, you know, honestly, if you've had 3 years to know that this is going to happen, you probably should have fixed it by then.
yeah,
I'd have to
yeah,
look and see how long this has been out, but uh, another good one. I like this one. Is it's from Threat Post. Microsoft implements Windows Zero Logon Flaw enforcement mode. So by default, it'll block vulnerable connections. Man, I can't talk, on devices that can be used to exploit the flaw starting February 9th. So that's a good proactive step. Well, I guess reactive step, but proactive for the people that
yeah.
haven't been compromised by it.
Proactively reactive.
Yes. Um, yeah, but I mean, it's the right thing to do, right? Like, how many times do we see, yeah, there's this massive flaw and you should do this? Well, why don't you enforce it? Like, do security right. So
Yeah,
and then the last one I wanted to talk about was the was around the Solarwinds breach, and FireEye has released a couple of really good tools. They have that Azure AD Investigator that you can use to help determine if the SolarWinds hackers used those techniques, and then a tool for auditing networks, looking for those indicators of compromise specific to this. So really good work by FireEye, and continuing to release some open source tools, and really, I mean, it's been their work from an incident responder perspective has been amazingly helpful. Like,
yeah, this has been a good, they definitely came out looking better than they did at the beginning, right? At the beginning, people were like, what the hell, some people, not many, but yeah, it's nice to see how they've worked through this, from a PR perspective, from a business perspective. They look great. They helped people. They actually, they provided a lot of value to the community. So I think, all those things are good. The problem is still there.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, we're making progress.
They're doing a lot of really good stuff. I've been really impressed. So
yeah, me too. And our team, Oscar's team's been doing some bang up work too. Are you still helping them on things?
Just keeping an eye on it. The one we were worried about, it looks like it was just the beaconing, but not actually ever exploited. So that was a huge relief.
That was the city? That city one you were talking about? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So that was very good. So
yeah, that's good news.
But yeah, so just monitoring that.
Good. Well, good stuff. There's no shortage of things we're working on, is there?
No. Yeah, you broke up a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm always breaking up.
So any shout outs for you this week?
I'm gonna give a shout out to, what am I gonna do? I yell at Penrod, so you may not know who that is, but I yell at is a really good advocate in our industry. She's lives in Israel. A company called Fluencer, but she preached, our CISSP mentor program to her followers, and also the daily insanity check-ins. She's just a really good, ethical ally in our fight. Cool. So shout out to Ayala.
Very cool. And I'll keep mine from the news. Shout out to Victoria for all the work she does every week, putting that stuff together, and then everybody that helps give her some feedback and puts together these notes that we use. So thank you for that. All right. Sure. Well, that is it for episode 116, I think we said. It's been a long time. You can reach out to us at email at unsecurity@protonmail.com. I'm at Brad Nye, and Evan is at Evan Francine. Follow our the companies at FRSecure and at Studio Security. They keep you up to date on all the latest, greatest things that are going on. So with that, we will see you all. Talk to you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, man.